Unlock the high returns of the expanding venture capital world right here on the Emerging Managers Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Scott Kelly with the Emerging Managers Podcast. We've got a great episode coming up in just a few moments. I'm really excited to interview Ashutosh Kumar from Expert Dojo. He recently became the CEO of Expert Dojo, replacing Brian McMahon as Brian is moving on to other great aspects in some of the portfolio companies of Expert Dojo. And as you don't know already, Expert Dojo is the largest and most active venture capital firms in the world, hundreds of investments. And in addition to becoming the new CEO, Ash is running the India division and their new India fund, which is going to provide a great opportunity for this phenomenal country with all kinds of entrepreneurs the opportunity to get the needed funding and growth hacking they require. And, Ash comes with a stellar background. He was an Indian entrepreneur of a cement company. He was a graduate of Harvard University in computer science, got his master's there, brings a lot of experience to the ecosystem. So he's going to be a great asset to Expert Dojo in his new role with their hundreds of portfolio companies and his newer role as the lead and general partner for the India Expert Dojo Fund. So everybody listen in to a great interview with Ash. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Kelly, the founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners and your host for the Emerging Managers Podcast. And I'm really excited to bring in the new CEO onto the pod and the GP of the Indian Fund for Expert Dojo, Ash Kumar. Ash, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me here. It's always exciting to talk to you, and it's a pleasure, and I'm honored to be on the show.
Thank you for, I think it's probably pretty late in India right now, so I appreciate you're waking up in the middle of the night to do this podcast. So
we live this way. It's 10:30 p.m. and we are recording this podcast.
Awesome. Well, before we get into Expert Dojo and what you're doing in India, which I think is amazing and exciting, maybe share with everybody a little bit about your background prior to coming to the dojo, and then we'll jump into the fun and what you're doing in India.
For sure. Thank you. I got a story. So I come from not so educated state in India, right? And born in a family that has hustled the whole life, right? And have seen my dad building empire of his own from nothing, right? So dad has been a great inspiration throughout my life for so many things. But then as a kid who born in a very remote village in India, I had a big dreams and I've been chasing it forever, right? So wanted to be an engineer, checked mark, went to a computer science degree. Very common in India though. Every family has one engineer, so kind of an obvious path. But then after 4 years of doing coding, I realized engineering not something that I want to pursue my career for forever, right? But during my undergrad days as well, I started building a startup because my dad has a business and I've grown up seeing the business in my family. At the same time, he's a PhD holder, which means education and integration of the business together. That mindset I've grown up, right? So when I got into computer science degree as a undergrad student, I started getting my hands dirty with the startup. I had no clue what a startup means back then. I built my first company, failed. Second company failed. Then I got an opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship in China. So I went to China to learn entrepreneurship, came back, launched a business. Again, ran for 6 months, realized not something that I'm going to do. I took my name out of my, the placement department of the undergrad school where, they help you get recruitment done in an IT company. I was the one who took my name out, who took the name out of the whole list, saying I'm going to go and do hardcore entrepreneurship, for full time. So right after my undergrad, I started my first company, which I scaled it to a place. And then I had a co-founder who went to BU. So again, got inspired by him. Okay, you need to have a great, education as well at the same time. So build a cement e-commerce company back then, right, in India. And then sold it to a local competitor. And then I decided, okay, my dad has the PhD degree. I told you the story before, and the business thing. I did a computer science degree and a business myself and a startup. And then next path was obvious to, go for a higher studies because, I don't want to compete with my dad, but still I need to have at least a master's degree. I kind of took some taste and then packed my bag and got into a great opportunity to go to Harvard. Ended up going there. So I was in Boston when I moved to the US for the first time. And I came to US beforehand. So that was another story in back of my head that I need to come back to the US for my grad school because that's where people learn from it, right? So I packed my bag when I got into the university. I went there, did my master's degree. And then what happened during my student time in Boston? I was also a part of the venture capital community in the club. So my president one of those days. He sent me a newsletter out of random because they wanted us to host some events and they wanted us to take some inspiration from outside of the Harvard network to see how these guys are doing it. Fortunately or unfortunately, that newsletter came in my inbox was from Expert Dojo, right? And I had no clue what I'm going to do in my life, right? Because but in one corner of my head, on my in back of my brain, it was kind of an obvious path because computer science degree, entrepreneurship, and the management degree. So if you connect all the dots backwards, the next path was always in the venture capital side, and that's what also something because I wanted to do. The reason being an entrepreneur, what happens, you always get bombarded with a jillions, thousands of ideas, but then you realize one thing that you cannot execute all of them all alone, right? And you need either people or be on the other side of the table, help these companies break through. And that's what I chose, the second path, being on the VC side. So I did the VC before I become the VC. And what does that
Okay.
mean? It means like I started doing deal sourcing, like, like sending it to multiple VCs, did some VC fellowship and all. And then the story about how the Expedozo newsletter inspired me a lot. The first time when I heard the name Expedozo, I thought it's a karate company, basically, right? Or or maybe event management company because I had no clue that they are the VC fund because the name doesn't sound like a VC. They don't have the
Sure.
VC, they don't have the ventures and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that gave me a thought to think about why the name is unique, right?
Mhm.
And then when I researched about them, I found out that they have like more than pretty much close to 200 companies back then. I was like,
Mhm.
what the? Like literally, these guys have like been so aggressive with their investment approach. I wrote an email to Brian and Isabel back then. Hey, I'm like a student, aspiring to be a VC, about to graduate. I want to do something with you guys. So, like, okay, come to California. And I also wanted to test the water from the other side. I've
Mhm.
been in Boston, and then I wanted to taste the culture and to see what's happening into the whole California side of it. So rather than going to Valley, I chose the Silicon Beach, right?
Uh-huh.
And then end up joining Expertos. And since then, things are happening. Like sky's the limit. Like I joined as an employee, then became the partner, then the general partner, and now CEO. The new announcement that you just had heard, like pretty much not even a month ago. So that's
Right.
my story, and I'm really excited. What are the things that we have to unfold, at the
That,
dojo? It's just
that
getting started.
great story, and and congratulations again on your ascent at Expert Dojo in the space. But you're also the general partner of the India Fund, and I really want you to. I want to unpack. Obviously, you're an Indian. You're an Indian entrepreneur. But unpack how you and Brian came about launching an India Fund. Let's talk about that first.
Okay, so everything at Dojo is all about data and human-centric approach. So we amalgamate the data and our human touch point.
Mhm.
So historically, you have seen in the US as well, bunch of the tech companies had the CTO coming from India or Indian
Mhm.
origin, right?
Yep.
Historical data speaks itself. Now, for last couple of years, the trend is at the paradigm shift. So what's happening in the
Mhm.
US? These CTOs are becoming the CEOs, which
Mhm.
means Indians or Indian origin folks are getting better and better at the execution side of it, right?
Right.
At Expertise portfolio as well, we have invested in more than 300 companies globally. So people who don't know Expertise are watching for the first time, we are an early stage venture capital fund and a growth accelerator based in Santa Monica, have invested in more than 300 companies all across the world. You go
Right.
to any continent, we have a portfolio sitting there. So from US fund until today, we have invested in more than 30 companies in India already, pretty much close to 40 companies in Africa. And there are many more in different parts of the world as well.
Mhm.
So our thesis has been very simple. Early stage, sector agnostic, geo agnostic. If you have a potential to break through, boom, you're more than welcome, right? So we give you a small check and then follow on up with a bigger check later on. If you that is conditional based on the growth. If you are
Sure.
growing at 200% year over year. Coming back to your point, what you ask, why India now, right? And why we came up with this idea of having a India and opening of expertise office outside the United States for the first time ever. The reason being, as I told you about the historical data, the paradigm shift, what's happening in the United States. amongst our portfolio, 30 plus companies in India, we have already invested before we decided, okay, we need to open up our office there, right? In fact, in the US, pretty much close to 30, 40 of our founders who are residing in the US, they are American citizens, but they are Indian origin.
Right.
So, and then we have been seeing like these companies of ours are doing much better as compared to any other country outside the United States as well. So, and
Mhm.
then at the same time, Indian economy is growing at the rate that the world is not even have never
Right.
expected. So the economy is growing. It's the world's largest population of 1.4 billion people. You'll never find anywhere. Majority of them, each family I mentioned in the beginning of our talk, that they are going to the engineering school, which means they are very analytical driven and
Mhm.
good at English because the country is diversified with the multiple different regional languages, but unified with English as one common language. So go to
Right.
any place, you'll find English as it. So as compared to any other Asian country, India is the right place to build. Youngest country in the world right now. The average age of the folks is like 28,
Wow.
right? So there are multiple data points. If you connect all of them together, I mean, like people are saying this decade is for India, but we at Expertise believe this century is for India. This whole entrepreneur bubble is just getting bursted right now. Like
Right.
every second family now, they are like literally leaving their job or starting up their own venture. Shark Tank came to India 2 years, 3 years back. Like
Mhm.
literally, you go to Metro, people are watching Shark Tank. They're getting inspired by this whole thing. So people are techie, coming from analytical background, youngest country, good population for the consumer-based market in general, or deep tech as well. Because even talk about AI, which everyone talks these days, like more
Right.
than 50% of engineers or 60% are Indians, right?
Wow.
Indians are holding this whole game of the tech in their own hands. So we
Right.
decided, okay, enough. Boom, we have been doing it already. We need to do more. And then
Right.
we decided, okay, why don't we just launch India dedicated fund so that we can feed and support and help the Indian founders build the global companies from India without moving to the United States. So we decided, okay, let's build the investment landscape, the Toro between the India and the United States, and decentralize the whole fund structure a little bit. And that's why the whole new model of exposure is coming out. We are decentralizing the fund, which means multiple different locations, feeding one central thing, and helping each other companies out from different funds as well at the same time as a GP.
Yeah, yeah, you've got some big plans. Obviously, you're not just going to have a office in one location. Talk about how you're going to scale throughout the entire country of India.
Okay, so 3 days back, literally, I got a call from one of the state minister in India from the north saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
I saw you coming from my home state, our home state, and then you went to the US, you came back again, and now you're launching, you're doing amazing things. You have been investing in India, you are going to invest, you have like bigger plans. I heard from so many other folks, why don't you do something in our state?" Historically, that state has a huge history, okay? But there is zero VC fund there. Why?
Mhm.
Because of that reason, there is no entrepreneurs who are trying to stay in that state. They're going out, and
Mhm.
in fact, two of our portfolio company founders are coming from that state, right?
Right.
Because there is no one who is actually has doing stuff on the ground, right?
Right.
No VC fund on the ground. So we decided, and bunch of states in India, they are basically launching their own fund of funds as well, right? And they
Mhm.
are matching the funds. If you bring the GP raising, let's say $5 million, the
Mhm.
government of that state is saying, okay, I'll give you another $5 million. So they're
Wow.
matching with 1:1 ratio, which is
Okay.
another great data point for us. So
Sure.
we decided rather than having, let's say, like one central fund in India, which we will have anyways, the central office
Sure.
is in Bangalore. But at the same time, having a decentralized multiple state level fund will feed our central deal flow anyways in India. And then we'll have
Mhm.
like, let's say we're gonna go GP with the one local partner there. That way we can have
Mhm.
like access to the deal flow, not coming only from the tier one cities, but also from
Right.
tier two, tier three, tier four, you name it, from the
Right.
remotest place in the country. That so deal flow access will be easy. And then we'll work very closely with the government of that state as well, which means we'll be like well connected and building this whole ecosystem, right?
Right.
Which will be the central thing. So we'll have like the program team and the portfolio team. Everyone will be sitting in the Silicon Valley in India called Bangalore, but then they will be feeding multiple, having like different kinds of program at different state level as well as the corporate level as well. So we just want to enable this whole ecosystem, build this whole infrastructure together, and gradually, what we are doing in the US, if you are the best of the best of the companies coming out any of our program locally in India, you are eligible for the roadshow that we'll be doing at some point in the US. So we'll take those companies because that's the dream of all the Indian entrepreneurs to raise the
Right.
money from the US based, the VCs in general. So we'll help them to come to our United States office. Come, in Miami, like in Florida, we'll do the stuff with you, Scott. We'll go to
Mhm.
San Francisco, we'll go to Boston because we have a so there is a thing which is a kind of uniqueness to us. Most of the VCs started from India and then they think of going global and launching their US based fund.
Mhm.
We've been global already. We have like our strength lies in the United States, right? But
Right.
then we are coming other way around, which means we have more strength in our hand to own this Toro. So we don't want to be like the YC of United States or YC of India. We want to
Right.
be YC of the Indo-US or India to the world.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you've taken this approach, and you would think with a company, a country the size of India and the talent pool in India, this hasn't been done already. So you're like breaking new ground in markets. So you're setting up the ecosystem. You mentioned dozens of potential locations throughout the country, which I think is a real testament to really wanting to grow the ecosystem, which you've done all around the country. So I want to share. We're going to talk a little more about the fund itself and the investors and your co-investors. But you mentioned that you had 30 plus investments in India already. So obviously that was your motivation to get more involved in India. But let's talk about some of the companies that you're currently invested in and how they're doing, and maybe share some success stories.
Very fascinating question, and I always love answering this. The reason being, so whenever I came to India, like moving back from LA, when I went to a couple of events like a different state because they have invited to me like me as a speaker, the fascinating thing, hey, I know Expertozo. I'm like, how come you know Expertozo? Because we had no presence physically.
Right.
So we had a scouting of the company in the past, and that's why we got to 30 companies, which is not a bad number without
Sure.
having like a physical presence, right? Which means we have co-invested with a bunch of other VCs in India. So other VCs
Okay.
knew us already. So for
Hmm.
me, like the brand is like there, but now I'm
Right.
just building it up and taking to the next height,
Right.
right? So whenever I go to the places like this, they say like, I know Expedozo, I know you guys, you invested in this company. And the reason why this is also fascinating because if you go to Bangalore, talk to anybody on the street, hey, do you know the company called Beehive? They said, yeah. And Beehive is basically the WeWork of India. And they have more than hundreds location in Bangalore. So
Huh?
everyone, if you pass by any street, you'll see Beehive location in the big logo.
Right.
And that made me feel proud because we are the investor in Beehive and they are our portfolio company. So they
Right.
know us from Beehive. The movie recently being launched called Kubera.
Okay.
Okay, you can search about it. Blockbuster movie from the Tollywood industry made
Hmm.
more than like millions of dollars of revenue in
Hmm.
within a 2 weeks 2 or 3 weeks time, being
Right.
produced and distributed by our portfolio company called Mugafi. Okay,
Okay.
who has we invested very early stage. Now they are raising like more than $100 million. Talk to me about this offline. Okay. So, I mean, that's the crazy story that we have. Talk about
Right.
Zippy. Every investor, everyone from this ecosystem, they know about this company called Zippy, right?
Hmm.
And that way we have amazing companies coming out, Consumer AI, like again, Codex AI, bunch of companies from AI space, bunch of people
Hmm.
know about this company because they have been gone through the diligence process. So for me, I mean, these are our validation because the money that we have already invested in India is more than 4x if we talk about the MOIC, which
Hmm.
is the dream of a VC in general.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So, I mean, seeing all those trends as well, we decided, oh, why don't we just back a thousands entrepreneur coming out of India who are just doing because the one thing that Indians has it like willingness, not giving up approach basically.
Hmm.
They will just go hard with very lean approach at the same time, and we call it
Hmm.
in Hindi called jugaad techniques. Now it's
Okay.
widely being used in the West as well. Like how you can send a spaceship to the dark side of the moon at the 100th less price than NASA, and ISRO has done
Right.
it, and it's proved to the world. That's called
Right.
jugaad techniques. So they're optimizing
Okay.
their whole building process at the super economical rate, and then they make the whole product for the global scale as well, and then they make the dollars in the return. So the returns are higher. They're making the global companies being in India because now, honestly speaking, we are living in a borderless world in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because innovation you can make it from an island in Hawaii, and then your user might be sitting in China or India at the same time.
Sure.
Earlier today, I was diligencing a company. These both founders, honestly, I cannot name the company on the screen, but they are both sitting in Delhi. They never been to Nigeria. Their company is just in Nigeria, and they have like done 50,000 revenue last 6 months sitting
Well,
in Delhi. I mean, like, that's the story. And that's the
that
future of India.
that's fascinating. So let's talk about the India fund. Talk about the size of the fund, who you're co-investing with, and then maybe you have some ambitious goals. I think I heard there's 1,000 companies that you want to invest. So let's talk about the current India fund right now, and where are you going with that?
So we just announced our fund 2 months back.
Mhm.
The size of the fund is going to be 15 million to start with and 30 million to follow on. So technically
Okay.
45 million corpus that we're going to put together. India has a like much more regulated when it comes to the alternative asset class in general as compared to the US.
Okay.
Anyone can start the fund. In India, you cannot. You need
Okay.
the validation from the government, certain exam that you need to pass. We're in the process of doing that.
Okay.
But in the meantime, since we created a lot of buzz, we want to do the first cohort anyways. So
Okay.
right now, we have more than 500 Indian deals organically came to our pipeline
Wow.
without too much of the advertising. But we did a
Sure.
couple of them, honestly speaking, but then we got 500 or plus deals. We
Wow.
are diligencing it. Pretty much four of them are already selected. Again, tomorrow I have like four calls back to back after multi-level of diligence from our team. So we are
Hmm.
looking to invest in 10 companies in less than a month from now, right?
Hmm.
As a part of an SPV deal that we are doing and blind pooling the capital for that thing.
Hmm.
It's like just a small investment to start with, pretty much
Sure.
100K investment in those company because we are
Hmm.
doubling down. And then gradually we might invest up to $1 million. That is conditional based on growth, as I mentioned earlier, right?
Sure.
But our ambition is the bigger fund that is coming probably
Right.
early next year, gonna invest in like hundreds of new companies. At the same time, the decentralized model of the Expert Dojo will bring like another hundreds of companies all across. Because we are launching later this month in Bihar, in one of the states in the north. Then we'll be launching
Hmm.
probably another three, four more states. And then we might just step down a little, give a smaller check size to the state level entrepreneurs who are coming
Hmm.
there. And then we can feed them with our central fund that we are building. And then we can
Right.
feed more with our US counterpart. So it's just the story that needs to be created from the scratch. If you have ambition, if you have a true goal, what you're building, you know what you're solving. I mean, and if you have a perfect founders market fit, come talk to us
Right.
and we'll be delighted.
So let's talk to for potential LPs in the fund or folks that are managing money that want to participate in investing in Expert Dojo and in India. I love to ask this question: why your fund and why right now?
I mean, I've been already mentioning like why right now. Go talk to anybody anywhere in the world. Most of the VC funds, most of the people are right now targeting India.
Mhm.
Okay. The reason being there's so many signals coming out of the country. So this is the perfect time to build in India, build for the
Right.
world, invest in India, multiply your money. If you're
Yep.
not retired early, this is the time. Be an LP in the fund in India, like having India-centric fund. There's so many people aiming and then keeping their eye on India. And the reason why we are the right partners to partner with, because we have me being Indians, I know this market very well. I've been
Right.
playing entrepreneurship forever, right? At the same time, we are not the first time fund manager in India, right?
Right.
It's hard for the first time fund manager to know the ecosystem. We have
Right.
invested in 30 plus companies, and based on the best companies are already there doing like literally we came at 50K. Now the companies are doing more than 100 million, like 100 million fundraising and a 500
Right.
million value, stuff like that, right?
Right.
So our multiplications in those companies are crazy, right? So we know how to find great deals. And as I mentioned earlier, 500 deals right now in our pipeline in less than 2 months, all organic. So people know who Expertozo is. We have historical data of investing in a good companies, picking up a good founders. So we have been doing it forever, right? And now, since we are decentralizing the fund, we are coming up with a new structure, and we have an amazing team to work along with. Because honestly speaking, we don't want to be calling ourselves as a VC. And Brian has mentioned a jillion times as well. So do we
Sure.
believe. We are a growth hacker first, VC second.
Yep.
And if I circle back to the story in the beginning, why Expert Dojo name sounds very unique. It doesn't sound like it. Sometimes I got treated like, okay, you probably be another founder in an event
Right.
because they don't know about Expert Dojo. But this is good because I know the
Sure.
harsh reality on the ground, what they
Right.
think about VC, how they're approaching, and I sometimes
Yeah.
find some really good deals without diligencing it as a VC in general with that mindset. They might don't think that I'm a VC, but then They don't know that they're undergoing the diligence process at the same time. So what I'm saying, we have the historical data of investing in India. We have been investing, we have been doing good things. And then we are growth hacker first, VC second, which means we are hand holding our companies. We don't just let you go after 100K investment that you get from us. The actual program starts right after, right? We run the company through an intense 1 month program, and then we do audit based on multiple different parameters like what's your outbound, how's your conversion, how are you approaching the investment, what's your investment efficiency, how are you outbound score, how's your conversion and everything, like literally what's your mindset, how can you be the better and all. And then we score them, we do the B fair. There are a bunch of other things that we do. So too much of the data. At the same time, we compare that with the CACR and see how off trajectory you are, how on trajectory you are. And based on that, what we do is basically we customize the entire portfolio support plan. And we have built a relationship with the best companies in the world, best mentors in the world who are providing the support graciously with our community, amongst our community, because they want to help and contribute back to the community where they come from. They have been going through the journey, right? So we have those network that we activate after you get the 100K check. And then we touch point with the company every 6 months. And, at a partner level. The reason being, we want to see where the company is growing, if you're on good trajectory or not. And then if you keep doing amazing things, there is another up to $1 million on the table to take away, right? And if you keep going better and better, Brian might have mentioned in your last podcast that we are also integrating the whole venture capital model with the private equity approach, which means it's all started from the 50K to 100K to $1 million, another $1 million, another $1 million, and taking more, gradually doing more stuff together. And then we are integrating that. And that's the reason why I stepped up as a CEO at Expert Dojo and doing all this, building this whole system and the process around everything, launching multiple different funds. At the same time, Brian is our first, expendables, basically. Right?
Awesome.
So we are building the team of expendables, and Brian is number one expendable. He just joined Matchbook AI as a co-founder and hand-holding, building the next unicorn. So watch him building one, and probably I'm inviting more expendable to join us in the future.
Fantastic. So any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners today?
If you're a founder watching this, if you have an ambition to build something, don't wait. Just go out of your comfort zone, break your pattern, build something, and build lovable product. We always keep saying that don't build and don't make any minimum viable product. Build a lovable product. On the other side, if you're an investor watching us, if you want to know more about Expert Dojo Fund, feel free to reach out to me. My email is ash@expertdojo or ashutosh@expertdojo.com. Scott might mention below in the description. And if you're an ecosystem builder, if you're a mentor, if you're a growth hacker, if you're anyone in the venture space, you want to collaborate in any capacity, we always are open to kind of have a conversation with you at any time. And Scott has been a great, supporter, friend at Expert Dojo. So you reach out to him as well. He will feed you up with us, A bunch of deals we have done coming from his community anyway. So Scott, it's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. Ash, thanks for being on. And for everyone listening in, you got to follow Ash, expertdojo.com. For phenomenal things in India. Make sure you follow, and share this important podcast. And again, Ash, thanks for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure, Scott. Thank you so much, sir.
It was really interesting with speaking with Ash about Expert Dojo's India fund was the fact that 30 to 40% of entrepreneurs are either from India or Indian based. And that was really fascinating that, to learn from Ash, and obviously being there as an entrepreneur and now being there as an investor and a general partner in the fund, that so much brain trust and so much entrepreneurial experience is resonant throughout India. And, they've already made a number of investments in the country and have had some really good success. And, they're planning to decentralize the fund structure. India is so massive that they're going to be able to have small offices and facilities throughout the country to give other Indians outside of the major, power centers and the opportunity to get in front of, venture capital, get in front of growth hacking, and get in front of the things, that are necessary to help entrepreneurs succeed. And, the current landscape in India presents a great opportunity, as Ash mentioned, and, and they're focusing on building a lovable products and leveraging their strategic partnerships. So, I hope you enjoyed the interview. And again, make sure you comment, and share this podcast. And again, Ash, congratulations on the launch of the Expert Dojo India Fund and your new appointment as CEO.
Join Scott Kelly, Tracy Hazard, and their high-performing capital fund manager guests next week on the Emerging Managers Podcast. Don't miss our upcoming virtual and live VC Fast Pitch and podcast events. For more details, background on our guests, or an application to be our next guest, visit emergingmanagerspodcast.com. Don't miss out on shaping the future of venture capital and entrepreneurship with us by joining our robust community of innovators and investors today.